So we mute.
Okay. Hey everyone, we're live. We're going to start the webinar in about 20 minutes, or 10 minutes. We want to make sure that you guys can see us and hear us okay. If you have any trouble at all, please just shoot me an email or Alex an email. It's Landon@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com or Alex@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com. Either way, we've got our email pulled up, ready to help you. Excited about getting this semester started. Excited about our webinar tonight. We'll be back in just a little bit. We're going to mute the mics so you won't be able to hear us for a while, but you'll still be able to see us. We'll be live between now and when we get started at 6:30. I'll see you in just a minute, guys. All right, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me now. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. But between now and then, I want to just do a little test, make sure you're hearing me fine. If you'll notice on the top right-hand side of your screen, there are like little boxes, 3 little boxes. If you scroll the mouse over that, some options will come down. One of those is a Q&A option. I ask you to go ahead and open that up, and a window should pop up on your right-hand side, and that window will allow you to ask any questions that you have during the webinar tonight. So we'll be able to address your questions directly. So if you want to go ahead and try to get that open for me, and if you have any questions at all, like I said, just shoot us an email, either Landon@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com or Alex@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com, and we will address that. Once the webinar starts at 6:30, please only email Alex, because obviously I'll be a little preoccupied and won't be able to answer. So email him instead. So yeah, we'll be back in just a minute. Well, good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm very excited about starting the semester. Very excited about this webinar tonight. We have a few people here that are going to help us do some technical things, but mainly it's Alex Suber. If you have any technical questions at all about, you can see Alex down at the bottom of the screen. Wave again, Alex. So if you have any technical questions at all, or you don't know how to do something, or you can't get it figured out, or can't get it to work, just email Alex@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com, Alex@DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com, and he will answer all of your questions. And he's kind of running support, so you'll see him being very busy. I just want to welcome you. This is amazing. There are about 42 brand new Core 1 students that are joining us this semester. There's about another 40 to 45 of you that are in either the second semester of Core 1 or somewhere along the way in Core 2. We've got a handful of students that are doing our brand new missions program that I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. And so just glad that you guys are here, that you bought in. I just want to give you a little idea of what we're doing tonight. Tonight will be about an hour long. We'll go to about 7:30. Start out by just giving you a little bit of inspirational teaching, trying to motivate you to do your work well, to finish the course, so to speak. And then we will move on and speak for a moment with Dr. Brassfield. He'll be joining me for just a moment, and he'll talk to you a little bit about the Destiny ministry side of things and just welcome you and make you feel welcome as well. And then towards the end, I'm going to do a step-by-step orientation. During that orientation, you'll be able, I'll share my screen with you. I'll walk you through Moodle, show you how to do all of your assignments. And at the end of that, we'll have a question and answer session. And so if you'll look on your screen, the top right-hand corner on the screen, there are some small boxes. You scroll your mouse over that. There's a pop-up window that has a Q&A box. You hit the Q&A box, and it allows you to ask questions. You ask a question. If someone else likes your question, thinks it's a good one, they can hit +1. the more pluses the question gets, the higher it moves up top, so I know to answer it first. And then whatever question I'm answering will actually be highlighted up there as well. So this is a good way to get all your questions answered. Let me just say, for those of you who are just started this brand new in your first year, or maybe you started with us in the summer and we've not done an official orientation with you yet, the main thing I want to communicate this evening is that DLI, we are here for you. We believe that God has called you to do big things, and it's our goal and our passion to help you reach those God-given goals and dreams. It can be difficult at first if you're not familiar with technology. If you've been out of school for a little while, you might think that it's not for you or that it's too difficult. Or just stay with us. Give us 2 weeks. Just keep going at it. We'll answer all of your questions. I'm full time with DLI. Alex is full time with DLI. We have other staff here that are here full time to help you, to make your life easier, and so we just want you to know that we're here for you. Any question, and there's no dumb questions, no stupid questions. We understand that for some people this is a new adventure, and that it took a lot of courage to even sign up, and so we're here to hold your hand and to walk you through all the way. So feel free to contact us anytime, email, text messages, phone calls, Skype, snail mail, whatever you have to do to get to us, we're here for you. Just as we get started, I want to just encourage you for a little bit. Lately, I've been reading in the book of Jeremiah. And if you'll stick with me for just a moment, I want to. This is an important part of the orientation, but it takes a little bit of setup. Dr. Brassfield often says that he preaches the shortest sermons, he just has the longest introductions. So if you'll humor me, a long introduction to the point I'm trying to make. I've been reading a lot in Jeremiah, and there's a story from his life where he bought a piece of real estate, and I think it's pretty fitting to where we all are on our DLI journey together. I don't know if you've ever made a bad real estate deal, ever bought a house that wasn't worth what you thought it was worth, or you bought it at the top of the bubble, and then sure enough the bubble burst. My dad tells a really funny story about one time we went to Gatlinburg on a timeshare, and I was on the trip, but I wasn't old enough to quite remember it. But we went on a timeshare, and during the timeshare, they took him up in an airplane, and they showed him all the land on a mountain, and they said, you can buy in this land, and it's really cheap. Well, at the time, my dad was young and had a pastor in a great church and had a little bit of disposable income, so he thought it'd be a good idea to invest in this property. He imagined it to be a property that we vacationed on as a family, and that he imagined that he'd one day build a house or a cabin on this property. And so just flying above the mountain, he saw the land, and he agreed wholeheartedly to buy it, to purchase the land. So he gets off the airplane, comes down, and says, "Look, signs the papers. I want this piece of land. How do I get there?" And they told him, they said, "Well, the problem is there's not actually a road that goes to the land, or water, or sewage, or electricity." So he bought this awesome piece of land, but there was no way to get to it. No roads, there was no water, there was no sewage. So even though he owned the land, there was no way to access it. And there's stories throughout American history of land booms where people bought land or bought houses or bought homes, and to only find out they have foundation issues, that the land floods easily, or whatever it may be. But this isn't a new problem. Even the prophet Jeremiah invested in a bad real estate deal, and I want to tell you about that for a little bit this evening. If you read Jeremiah's book, Jeremiah, he invented the three-point sermon before any of us preachers were around. His whole book has 3 main points. He preached it over and over, and it's a long book. It's a very, very long. We just read it for devotion, and it took us a long time to get through it. Long book with 3 main points. Point number 1, you sinned. Point number 2, God is going to get you for sinning. And point number 3, there will eventually be restoration. He says it in a lot of different poetical ways. He uses different metaphors, allegories, allusions, illustrated sermons, parables, points, sermons, prophetic words, but his 3 main points are always the same. You sinned, God is going to get you, and you will eventually be restored. I know if I ever preached the same sermon 2 Sundays in a row, people's attendance would stop. They'd stop coming as often. But he preached this for chapter after chapter. Every message was the same. over and over again. And the first 28 chapters, the first 2 points of the sermon really come out clear. You're a sinner, and you're going to be punished for your sin. Jeremiah is the guy that you don't want to invite to the party. He is the original Debbie Downer. He is the one person that's just negative and pessimistic all the time. And like, how's it the weather outside? Well, it's not raining yet, but it's gonna rain. This is the kind of guy that Jeremiah was. And Jeremiah, as a young man, a young prophet, all the other prophets were saying, you know what, God's going to deliver this. God's got this. You know, the things we say to each other, all things work together for good. God isn't going to let us suffer. God's going to deliver us. And Jeremiah was like, dude, you're wrong. God spoke to me. We are going to be captured by the Babylonians. They are going to kill some of us. And if you don't want to be killed by the sword, guess what? You have a second option. You cannot be killed by the sword, but you can be killed by pestilence instead. You can be killed by disease. You know, back in the Old Testament days, the only way to keep disease from spreading was to take a sick person and take them outside of the city walls, put them outside the camp, so to speak, and that was the only way to really deal with them. Well, because Babylon had already sieged the city and made it where people couldn't leave, there was no way for sick people to leave, so the famines like typhus and leprosy just spread like wildfire throughout the city, killing everybody. And so Jeremiah said, look, we can surrender to the Babylonians, or they're going to kill us by the sword, but guess what? If you don't want to be killed by the sword, you can be killed by pestilence instead. And they're like, well, we don't like that option either, Jeremiah. So, well, good, I have a third option for you. You can always die by famine. If you don't want the sword, you don't want pestilence, you can starve to death. Isn't that something better than just like me? I'm like, just cut off my head. I do not want to go hungry for a day, much less starve to death. It'd be horrible. But Jeremiah's like, those are your options. We surrender and accept this is God's will, that we've sinned and He's going to punish us, and we go with Babylon and just accept this, or we fight and they kill us by the sword, they kill us by famine, they kill us by pestilence. But either way, you really have two options: surrender or die. Okay, so Jeremiah is not the guy you're going to invite to your Christmas party. He's not the guy that you want around very often. He's really a pessimistic guy with a very, very clear message. But then in chapter 29, his tone begins to change just a little bit. And when his tone changes, he says this. Jeremiah chapter 29, he says, you know, when we go to Babylon, we're going to be there for a very long time. About 70 years or so, we're going to be there. And here's what we should do. We should plant vineyards. We should build houses. We should get married. We should see our children get married, settle in the land, accept that God is doing this. Hananiah and other prophets are going around saying, well, Babylon might capture us, but it'll only take a couple years and God will deliver us. But Jeremiah said, no, it's not going to take 2 years. You're going to be there long enough to plant a vineyard. You're going to be long enough to build a house, to have children, to see your children get married. It's going to happen a long time. Just accept it. But here's the good news. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper. We all quote that verse, and those of you who are just took Intro to Bible in the summer, or those of you who will be taking Intro to Bible this fall, are going to find out from your book, Basic Guide to Interpreting the Bible, and through the other teachings in that course, how important it is to know the context of a passage. Because what Jeremiah is not saying, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, now everything's going to be good and wonderful immediately. He's saying you're going to go through a season of desolation. You're going to go through a season where you are captive in a foreign land. You're going to go through a season where you are away from the holy place that God promised your fathers. You're going to go through a season where you are in exile. But in that season, during that time, don't mourn. Don't fold your arms and throw a fit. Don't just sit idly waiting for God to deliver you. Do something. Build houses, plant vineyards. It's such a powerful word, and I think it's apt for all of us emerging leaders, is that when we find ourselves not where God has promised us, when we find ourselves in a Babylon type experience where we feel away from God's promises and away from God's will, the only thing we can do is be confident that He does have a plan for us to prosper, that our present isn't our future, that what we see in our present isn't what we'll see in the future, but also we are productive even in times where we feel like God has forgotten his promises to us. We still build houses and get married and have kids, and we still keep going to church and teaching Sunday school and serving faithfully. We keep doing all the right things, knowing that God one day will take us to our promised place. It's the message of Jeremiah chapter 29:11. It's not so much that God has plans for you so you're never going to suffer, that every bad thing will immediately go away. It's that even in your suffering, even in seasons where you don't understand what's going on, you know there is a hope and a future, even if you can't see it at this moment. So that's point 3 of Jeremiah's 3-point sermon. Now, point 3 of 3-point sermon. Now comes the interesting part. Jeremiah gets thrown into prison. And I promise all this is going to lead us somewhere. Jeremiah gets thrown into prison. What happened is that the Egyptians are marching towards Jerusalem. Jerusalem has already been conquered by the Babylonians. They've sieged the city. No one can leave the city walls. 2 different groups of Israelites have already been deported out of Jerusalem. And now Egypt is marching up to try to save Israel, because Egypt, they want to control that trade route that Jerusalem's along. So Egypt's marching up to save Babylon, and all the prophets are going crazy, or to save Jerusalem, and all the prophets are going crazy. So this is how God's going to do it. God is going to use Egypt to deliver us. God is going to take Egypt, and they're going to beat up the Babylonians and send them far away, and now we'll be rescued. And Jeremiah, with his normal, realistic self, says, no, you guys don't understand. I've heard from God himself. God himself spoke to me. No one is going to rescue us. No one is going to save us. It doesn't matter. Egypt cannot save you. No one can save you. Shortly after that episode, after Jeremiah told King Zedekiah that, Jeremiah is leaving the city to take care of some family business, and all the king's advisors get together and say, hey, I saw Jeremiah. He's walking out of town. He's defecting. He's going to Babylon, and he's going to join up with them, and he's being disloyal. So the king seizes Jeremiah, throws him in jail. Actually, throws him in a dungeon at first, and then Jeremiah kind of sweet talks his way back into the king's good graces and gets moved from the dungeon to a courtyard prison. And in the courtyard prison, his cousin comes to him with an outrageous offer. I want to set the scene here. I want to set the scene for us. So Jerusalem has already been sieged by Babylon. 2 separate deportations have already taken place of Israel into Babylon. There's a typhus outbreak killing people. There's a famine where Jeremiah in Lamentations tells us that women are eating their own children because they're so hungry. That's happening inside the city walls. Famine, disease, deportation. Not a time to make a real estate deal. But God spoke to Jeremiah and said, you know, your cousin is coming to you. His name is Hanamel. And I've always thought that Hanamel had a brother named Enamel who had great teeth. But he said, Hanamel is coming, and he's going to offer you a field, and I want you to buy that field. I'm not really that business savvy, not great with money. Try to use common sense, but I don't claim to be the next Dave Ramsey or financial guru or expert. But I sort of have an inclination that buying a piece of property in the midst of famine and war and pestilence and ensured deportation and exile, it's probably not the right time to buy a piece of property. Sure enough, just as God spoke to Jeremiah, his cousin Hanamel walks through the prison door and says, Jeremiah, I've got this piece of land, and my father just died. He was your uncle, and I don't want this land because I'm kind of like moving. I'm going to go somewhere else because all this is going on. He said, so since you're the next in the family, you know, you have right to purchase this land. And if for just a mere 17 shekels, you can buy this land. And by the way, this land is in a place called Anathoth. And I think what Hanamel wasn't wanting Jeremiah to know, but archaeology has shown us now, is that at this time, Anathoth has already been captured by the Babylonians. So Hanamel is trying to sell Jeremiah land that the Babylonians already own and control and have conquered, right? So it is not a very smart real estate deal. Take it back all the way to Jeremiah chapter 11. Ananoth, the people at Ananoth, they tried to kill Jeremiah for prophesying God's word. So Jeremiah, in the midst of famine, in the midst of war, in the midst of pestilence, in the midst of imminent exile, even though you've heard God speak directly to you that we were going to leave this land, that God was not going to save us or spare us, and in a land where they have already tried to kill you once, and in a land where the Babylonians have already conquered, do you want to buy this piece of property? And Jeremiah said yes. Jeremiah didn't only say yes. This is the most thorough business transaction in all of Scripture. We see that Jeremiah had Baruch his scribe write up an official deed, and he took it to the witnesses, and the witnesses saw it, and the witnesses signed off on it and agreed to the purchase. And then he took it to the someone was trying to beep in on my screen. So then he took it and he put it in a earthenware vessel that would never decay, and he put the deed in there so that there would be no way that the deed would ever fail. And he had another copy that he put with the city clerk so that forever people would be able to come and look at this transaction. And the question is why? That's the first question. Why did Jeremiah buy a piece of land in Jeremiah chapter 32 in the midst of all these adverse circumstances? And here's why. Because it is true that Jeremiah knew in his heart of hearts that God was going to punish Israel, that God was going to take Israel into exile through Babylon. Jeremiah was convinced of that. But he was also convinced that God would restore them to the land one day. See, Jeremiah has been preaching since Jeremiah chapter 29 and into chapter 30 and into chapter 31 and on into chapter 33 about what it's going to be like when Israel returns to the land, and how God would, just as surely as he was going to punish them, he would restore them and bring them back. And so what God was telling Jeremiah, I'm glad you're preaching restoration. I'm glad that you're prophesying restoration. But are you willing to put some money where your mouth is? Are you willing to buy into your future? Are you willing to buy a field that you will never be able to use today? It's not like Jeremiah could go up to the field at Ananoth and say, "Hey, Babylonians, you see I got this deed right here. How about you guys scram and let me build a house?" Babylonians would probably say no, and then they'd cut off his head. It's not going to happen. And so Jeremiah knew there was no immediate payoff for buying the field. But Jeremiah, being a man of faith, being a man who had heard from God, being a man confident of who his God was, understood that even though there was no immediate payoff, there would be a long-term benefit to obeying God's voice and buying the field. So quite simply, at the beginning of this DLI journey for many of you, as many of you continue the DLI journey and go into the second year, there are a few of you that are going into your very last semester. Some of you that are studying missions to go into the missions field and serve in places like Zambia and Nicaragua and Colombia and Jamaica and serve around the world. The question I have for you is, are you willing to gamble all that you are and all that you have for all that God has promised? Are you willing to gamble all that you have and all that you are for all that God has promised? Here's where I think it matters to you and I. It's because doing something like DLI is an investment. It is a time investment. It is a money investment. You know, we keep costs as low as possible, and we are so grateful for our Destiny partners, churches that support our ministry, that we keep tuition just as low as we possibly can for you, that you're paying $1,000 a year, but trust me, it is worth much, much more than that. Our budget is much, much more than that. But we have churches that help offset some of those costs. And so we know that, but we still know that even $1,000 for some of you is very hard for you to come up with. That you took sacrifices from other things, that you cut back in other areas, that you might have put off a trip that you had been meaning to take, or decided against a luxury that you normally would take but didn't. There's a money commitment. There's a time commitment. We understand that you have a family and you have a church and that you have a job and that you have a lot of responsibilities. So we do our best not to load you down with busy work or to keep you too busy. But it is you're going to spend a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 10 hours a week, at least, doing DLI work, being disciplined. You're going to wake up earlier in the morning than you're used to waking up. You're going to stay up later. You're going to forego your lunchtime Facebook chats and Twitter scrolls for New Testament workbooks. That's what's going to happen over these next 2 years. Is that you're going to give up a lot. You're going to buy the field because you believe in God's future. And it may not make much sense in the present. So many of our students come to me saying things like, I don't really think I'm called to ministry. I don't really know why I'm doing DLI. You're buying a field. That something in you knows that God has a better future for you planned. You know that in a moment, whether it was in a worship service or in your quiet time or in a place of prayer, you know that God spoke to you and said that He has something more for you than what you're experiencing and seeing right now. And the tendency for a lot of people is just to wait. Talk to so many people that say, I feel like God's called me to do something, but I don't know what it is. I'm just going to wait for Him to reveal it. I'm wait for Him to open the door. But sometimes He wants you to buy the field before the promises come to pass. And sometimes that looks an awful like the investment that you're putting into DLI. That there's a future that's bright and great for you. That I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. I believe that's true for each and every one of you watching tonight. Confident in that. But in the meantime, we prepare ourselves. A wise and seasoned minister once told me whenever I was just starting out in ministry, a few years back, he said, prepare yourself for what the Lord has prepared for you. It was so eye-opening to me because I spent all my time praying and thinking about what God had prepared for me, about what my ministry would be, and about what doors He was going to open and how great I would be one day. And just that youthful innocence or ignorance, it could go either way, I'm not really sure, but just this idea that I was special and God called me to do something big and that one day I would just wake up and be great. Yeah. Like I would just wake up one morning like, yes, okay, I am officially awesome now. Right. Yes, glad this happened finally. But I've learned it doesn't work that way. That greatness in God looks a lot like buying a field when everyone else thinks you're crazy for buying that field. That doing something big for God looks a lot like insanity to everyone else, because you can bet that Hanamel, the cousin, thought that he was deceiving Jeremiah. He probably thought, this stupid preacher does not know anything about money. He's going to buy this field that's already been conquered by the Babylonians. Can you imagine the witnesses in the city council whenever they're signing this land deal? Like, Jeremiah, I know you've been in prison for a little while, but in case you haven't heard the current events, haven't heard the news, someone kind of owns that field. The Babylonians have conquered it. I don't think you can really build a house or plant a garden or anything. So it looked like insanity to everyone else. But to Jeremiah, it was exactly what he needed. It was exactly what he needed to do to invest in his future. So that's my encouragement to you today, is that, first of all, good job on either signing up for DLI or continuing with DLI. You're buying a field. You're investing into your future. You're showing God that you believe that He has something better for you in the future than you're experiencing right now. But there's another side of it too. Paul would, in all of his letters, he was quick to encourage his readers at the beginning, and then he kind of gets into some heavyweight stuff as the letter proceeds. Here's the other side of that coin, is that because you're buying into your future, because you are investing into what God has called you to be, it demands your very, very best effort. It demands the most attention you have. I'm sure it's possible to skate through the assignments, to not read all the books, to find ways to just do well enough to get a C on the test. I'm sure it's possible to wait until 10 o'clock on every Sunday night before the unit closes and do all of your work in a rush and turn it in and make an okay grade. I'm sure it's possible to to skimp on the internship hours that we'll talk about in a little bit, or to just try to get by doing the very least that you can. For many of you, there'll be a season in 2 weeks to a month that you'll be in the middle of this and you'll go, man, this is just more work than I thought, and you're going to want to quit. But because you're buying a field, because you're not just doing some homework and doing this little Bible course, because you're investing into your future, you don't have that option. You're showing God that you're serious about what He's called you to do. So I encourage you, go all in with DLI. Go all in with your church. Go all in with your family. Keep buying fields. Keep investing. Keep showing God that you're serious about the future. So I just hope that encouraged you, and I'm going to open up the Q&A panel. If you have any questions about that story as we transition next into the...
You want me to talk a little bit about my story?
Yeah. Actually, what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch the camera over to Alex Suber. And Alex, let me tell you a little bit about Alex real quickly. Alex was a 2-year student with DLI. He has been with us as an on-site intern for all that time. After he finished his internship with Destiny and his 2-year DLI program, we have brought him on to staff in an official role, so he's actually a DLI assistant now. He's working for us. If you are in the first year, first semester, you'll be dealing primarily with Alex. I'm going to be dealing with everyone else, so if you're in some year 1, semester 2, core 2, semester 1, core 2, semester 2, I'll be grading your work and answering your emails and corresponding with you. But if you're in that first semester, Alex is your guy. He'll be grading your papers. He's been through DLI. He'll be answering your emails, your technical problems, all that. So I wanted him to take a minute to introduce himself and also just to give you a little bit of an overview of what he experienced as DLI student and maybe a couple of tips.
Well, hey guys, I just want to welcome you to DLI again, like Landon just did, and just say great to see you. Just as we're going through this talk about Jeremiah, it just reminded me of my own life. My parents were always ministers. I grew up around the ministry, but there was one thing that I always knew I didn't want to do was full-time ministry or work for a church or anything like that. I did not want to do that. But over the course of events in my senior year of high school, God just placed in my heart that I actually should pursue that path and kind of put aside some plans that I had. I was planning on going into law school and some different things like that. And just like people probably thought Jeremiah was crazy, people thought I was crazy giving up scholarships to state universities and different things. But through that, I've grown so much over the last 2 years. Going through DLI, I've grown so much. Being with Dr. Brassfield, I've grown so much. And I know that DLI is going to help you. And whether you're just trying to learn the Bible and grow spiritually, or maybe you are looking to go into some kind of ministry, I know that it's going to help you and bless you. So as you probably saw behind me, Dr. Phil Brassfield, our Director of Destiny Ministries, just walked in. And so we're going to have him come on and just say a quick word to encourage you guys and welcome you to DLI. So.
Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see you tonight. I know you're having a great meeting, a great session together. And let me just add a couple of ideas. Before I do, though, let me have a technical moment here. Okay. So I know that part of the plan for us in these webinars is to talk with you about core values of Destiny Ministries. First of all, let me just say welcome and congratulations. So proud of all of you for making the decision to continue your education and taking this next step. We believe that in this class are world changers and that God's hand is mightily upon all of you. And I guarantee you this, God has a plan and a purpose for every one of your lives. And so, as a leader of Destiny and one who envisioned this to become a reality, you are the fulfillment of a dream that God placed in my heart many years ago. And now working with leaders over 20 years and watching God build our staff and build the infrastructure to provide the platform through which you could study has been a great honor. So congratulations on that. When we're talking throughout these webinars, you're going to hear us talk about core values, issues that relate to Destiny Ministries and some of the values that make Destiny who we are. Because here's what I want you to understand tonight, that your life in ministry is going to be more defined by what's important to you than what you want to accomplish. We talk a lot about vision, but the fact is values are the headwaters of vision. And over the years, some of you perhaps heard me say this, and I believe it's true with all my heart, that values are what's really important. And we define values as what's important. And so what's important to you will define your life and ministry. It will define how you spend your money, how you invest your time, the talents, the abilities that God's given you will all be largely reflected in what's important to you. So let me just take a second and talk about one of the core values of Destiny Ministries. We have a number that you can of them that you can find on the website. This is not an inclusive list in the sense that it's all the values that we have, but it is some of the core foundational values. And one of those I want to talk about tonight, and I know Landon has touched on that in his presentation biblically tonight, is excellence. At Destiny Ministries, we value excellence. And let me define that for you. Excellence is not measured by anyone else's abilities, skill sets, or talents. Excellence is never effectively measured by someone else's ability. Excellence, as we define it at Destiny, is about doing your best every single time. It's about having the bar set high for yourself. And so Destiny values excellence. If you come to a Destiny meeting, you're going to find that we do everything we can do at as high a level as we can possibly do it. And so let me encourage you today. We not only want you to get an understanding of Old Testament survey and New Testament survey and the rudiments of basic academics as it relates to the Scripture. We don't want you to just learn how to serve your local church. We want you to learn how to serve at a high level and at a level of excellence. That means that you do your best every single time. It's not a 25% effort. It's not a 50% effort. It's not a 75% effort. It's 100% of your capabilities every single time. Whether it's a class you teach, a song that you sing, or working in the parking lot, helping to park cars, the standard that we embrace at Destiny is a value of excellence. And so we encourage you to do that. So let me just say today that that's one of the core values of Destiny, and as you move, some of you will connect with Destiny once you finish your 2 years with Destiny Leadership Institute. Some of you will find your home with us at Destiny, and we wanted you to be exposed to our values and kind of understand what we stand for throughout the process so that we build a community and not just share information. We value excellence. Let me, as I close my remarks, let me encourage you. Let excellence be reflected in every assignment that you engage in, every homework assignment, every thread when you're responding to questions or you're responding to other students. Think your responses through. Let excellence be a value that you embrace and that you participate in throughout your studies. If you're living in a lifestyle of excellence, that means you're not always at the last minute turning your homework assignments. You're not always doing things at the absolute last minute. That's not an excellent way of doing things. And I always tell young people, be sure that in your life you don't surround yourself with people that demand nothing of you. And you grow where you are encouraged and challenged to be your very best. So I'm anxious to see your work. I'm anxious to hear the good reports of all of your efforts and all that you're doing. But let me encourage you that whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord, whether it's writing a paper, attending a webinar, or responding to one of your threads or one of your homework assignments. And so that's my spiel for tonight. Welcome to the new session of Destiny Leadership Institute. Can't wait to hear all the great things that's going to be happening with you all this year.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brassfield, for that encouragement. Okay, so what's going to happen next, guys, is I don't think so. What's going to happen next, guys, is that you will. I'm going to go over the policies with you. That everyone needs to stay tuned for that. And then right after that, I'm going to share my screen with you and walk you through Moodle. You only have to stay for that if you are a first-year, first-semester student and want to know more about that. So if you're doing that, and Alex, I think we have an echo again, according to a viewer. So if you want to walk through Moodle, we're going to do that at the end and also take some questions. Let me go over these policies, and as I go over the policies, if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer box that I told you about earlier. You find that at the top of the page, on little squares up top. You put the mouse over that, a Q&A question box drops down. All these policies are in the syllabus, so they are official. Whenever you go into any of the courses on Moodle, there's on the home page. There's always a syllabus on the right-hand side there, and you can look at that and read that all your assignments, how you're graded, all that is there. So here are the policies I want to go over. First of all, it's our refund policy. If you've paid for DLI, which you should have if you've been watching this already, you have 30 days after the beginning of the first of the semester to, if you change your mind for whatever reason, if it's in writing within 30 days, we're good. We'll refund whatever money you have paid. After 30 days, there is absolutely no refund policy. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that we talk about, and this kind of goes back into the buying the field and Dr. Brassfield's remarks, is if you're on a payment plan and we run your card and there's not enough money there, it's up to you to call us and make that right. We have one lady that many of you have already dealt with. Her name is Amy, and she is incredible. She does the work of 4 or 5 people, but there's still only one of her. And when people miss payments and don't get with her, and she has to phone call and email and try to get up with you, it's not fair to her. And so our policy is that if you miss a payment, you have 7 days to call and make that right. At the end of 7 days, if it's not made right, we just lock you out of your online classroom account so you can't access your classes. And during that time, you're still responsible for any work that you miss. It doesn't matter if why you missed it, if you were locked out, if it's because of a payment issue. Once you miss that assignment, you miss that assignment. So that is our missed payment policy. That's not only like a housekeeping thing, that's an integrity thing. Whenever you signed up, you agreed to pay this amount, and so it's an integrity thing too. So stay on top of that. As far as late work goes, as most of you know, you have 2 weeks to complete all of your assignments. At the end of 2 weeks, at midnight Central Time on that Sunday, that unit is closed. Any work that's turned in late will automatically receive 10 points off for that first week that it's late. That goes up to 20 points off the second week, all the way up to 30. Whenever a course ends at the end of the semester, we run semesters very close to each other, so we don't have the time or the manpower that if you're 2 weeks late turning in assignments at the end of the semester, because we've got to turn around and have another semester of students waiting on us. So the end of the semester is the end of the semester. Any work that's not done is not done. Throughout the semester, you can turn in things late for a penalty. That's a strict policy. The good thing is that you can be late on assignments and only get 10 points off, so it's not the end of the world. But there's kind of no exceptions. What I've instructed Alex to do, that's our policy. If you're late, it's 10 points off per week. Something else I want to add is, anytime that we are at fault, if we post a wrong link or a quiz we write has wrong answers or whatever it is, we'll take responsibility and fix that. But this is an online program, and we can't be responsible for all of the technical issues. So if you're having technical issues, that's going to be up to you. We'll work with you to help you troubleshoot and find out what the issue is. But that's why you need to make sure to get your work done in plenty of time, because if you wait until 10 o'clock on Sunday night to do your work and everything's due in 2 hours, then all of a sudden your computer goes out or you can't figure out how to open your email or whatever the question might be, that we really can't take responsibility for that. So technical issues, those are on you. We'll help you walk through them the best that we can, but do your work in plenty of time so that technical issues don't become a problem. Final policy I'll just bring up that we need to mention is that you have to have a C to pass. So anything above a 70, you pass that course. Anything below, you'll need to take it over again. All the policies are spelled out in more detail in each syllabus, so be sure to look at those. Let me answer some question. Heather wants to know. Actually, I can do this. Where can you find your balance and what day the payments are pulled? You can contact Amy at destinyvisioncenter.com, and she'll be happy to answer that for you. Payments are usually pulled on the 15th of each month. That's when payments are normally taken out. If you made different arrangements, that's fine. But contact Amy at that email address, amy@destinyvisioncenter.com, or call our office number, 501-887-9933, and we will take care of that there. Okay. Now, if you guys are, I'm about to walk us through Moodle now, and making all the, just kind of showing you how everything works. If you have, if you don't need that orientation, if you've already been doing DLI for a while and want to step out, you're welcome to do that. If you want to be walked through it, I'm about to do that for those who are still watching. I would also point out that if you started in this summer, you might pick up some things because we're doing we never did an orientation for the summer. So let me do this. Also, guys, just so you know, with a computer, with any sort of webinar or Hangout or whatever you want to say, there's two ends of it. There's our end where there could be a problem, and there's your end where there could be a problem. If there's a problem on our end, we normally, our technical people know that. So if you're losing audio or video, it's probably something on your end. So you can refresh the screen. That helps sometimes if you go up and refresh, and hopefully that'll work for you. So we're about to go through Moodle. We're about to go through all of the assignments. So what you'll do is I'm going to open up my screen here. 1 second, guys. All right. So what you guys will see here is I am on the DLI online classroom. You find this at campus.educatium.com/DLI Moodle. If you want to, you can bookmark it and save it. You can find it through the DestinyLeadershipInstitute.com. There's a place that says Access Online Classroom at the bottom. So this is where you come. You log in. If you haven't set up credentials yet, we can help you do that, but I think almost all of you have, so we won't take time for that right now. You log in and you find your classes. So we're going to go to DLI Core 1, we're going to go to Semester 1, and we're going to go to Intro to Bible, Fall 2014. That's your first class. So whenever you do that, this is the page that will usually come up. This is your home page. So on the home page, you have a little introduction here of what the course is about, and then you have your syllabus on your right-hand side. It is very important that you read the syllabus. That is, every week you're given your assignments, but this is the master calendar of what all is expected of you and what all the policies for that particular course are. So if you look up top, you have the course home, which is where we are. We'll have lessons, which is where we're going next. Roster is a way that you can go to the roster, click on that, and you'll see everyone in the class. So you'll be able to see everyone's name, roster again like this, and now there's 43 people enrolled in your class, and so you can email them. You can, if you select somebody, so if I want to email Dustin, I can select his name, and then I can go down with selected users and hit add or send message, and that's really cool. So it doesn't actually share your email address, it just messages them directly. So if there's a classmate or if you're confused about something, you can ask us, or you can ask You can ask a classmate. There's no place on Moodle though for you to put your relationship status. So, I don't know if email should work there or not. But it'd be a great story. Please let us know. We'll make a video of it and use it for promotional piece or something. So that's the roster. Then there's Gradebook. When you go to your Gradebook, you hit Grades, and obviously you can see all of your grades right there. So those are some of the functions. Almost everything you'll do, though, will be under Lessons. This is very, very simple and straightforward. We keep it that way. So in your lessons, it says Introduction to Bible 1, September 8th to 21st. So this is what you're working on right now if you're in Core 1, Semester 1. You go in and it gives you a list of things to do between now and September 21st at midnight. So it opens at September 8th at 12:01 a.m. and closes on September 21st, 11:59 p.m. So you have the 2 full weeks to do these things. The first thing you did is you're doing it now. You're watching the live orientation webinar. Now, just a word about the webinars, guys. They will be once a month. The times are published, 6:30 to 7:30 Central. For this webinar, there's no paper required if you didn't attend live, but normally, if you miss a webinar, you'll have to write a one-page paper of whenever you watch it, the recorded version of it later. I'm just going to ask you this, or just kind of put it out there, I should say, is that this is only once a month. We go through a lot of work to present this to you, to give this to you as a service. So we really ask you to make every effort to be here, to interact with your questions, to log in, to not just pull it up on your computer screen and go do something else. You have to remember, I've been in seminary, I've been in college, I know all the tricks, I know what people do. But asking you, this is only once a month. It's not every week, it's not every other night. It's once a month. So make every effort to be here, and I really hope that whatever we share will bless you and help you. Through these webinars, we will have different guests on from time to time, and it's always something really engaging and exciting. And so make every effort to be here on those dates. If you cannot be here for whatever reason, you just write a one-page paper. So there's motivation to attend, so you don't have to write the paper. Number 2 on your list now is that you read the course notes. Course notes are normally something that either Dr. Brassfield or I wrote, and so it's just a way to kind of give us a spin on, give you a spin on what you're studying from our perspective. Then step number 3 is you complete chapters 1 to 10 of 30 Days to Understanding the Bible workbook. Very simple. You have a book called 30 Days to Understand the Bible. It's a workbook, so you just go through and you fill in all the blanks. 1 chapter equals 1 day. 1 chapter equals 1 day. So that means that if you do it Monday through Friday of the 2 weeks, you'll knock it out. And so you have the workbook. Then step number 4, you have a book called A Basic Guide to Interpreting the Bible. You read chapters 1 and 2, and you answer the questions at the end of each chapter and submit to the course Dropbox. So what you'll see here is there's something called Dropbox right here. So you read your book, you open up a file, Microsoft Word, whatever it might be, you type up your answers to the discussion questions, you hit Dropbox right here, it opens up, and you hit Choose File, and you select whatever file you want to put in there, and you upload the file, and voila, you've done the assignment. So keep that in mind as well. Oops. And please put those in a PDF file as well. I lost the camera feed, but I think you guys are probably up to speed by now. If you're in the first semester, you'll be doing the 30 Days to Understand the Bible. You also have Old Testament assignments, and in your Old Testament assignments, you do need to be in your Old Testament workbook doing unit by unit. Those are a day at a time as well. You need to do that the whole semester. That book lasts 13 weeks, and so there are 13 weeks in our semester, so you do all that the whole semester. Intro to Bible will range about 6 weeks or so, and then you'll be finished with that, and then your focus will move all the way over to Old Testament and all the assignments there. With audio and video, you'll listen to some lectures by Ray Stedman. You'll watch some videos by Ronnie Simone. There are quizzes that are right under the video that you can take there. Everything is very, very self-explanatory. We try to make it as straightforward as possible. But if you ever have any questions, you can just let us know. One word of advice, then I'm going to open up for questions. So go ahead and put your questions in about anything that you have. One word of advice is that those workbooks, you have 30 Days to Understand the Bible, you have Old Testament Survey. Next semester, you'll have New Testament Survey, or some of you might be in New Testament Survey now. Those workbooks are a beast if you get behind. You do not want to get behind on those workbooks because they, day to day, and every day that you get behind, it just piles up and becomes really hard to catch up. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're spending, an all-day Saturday to do that. So just kind of keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that your exams for Introduction to Bible and Old Testament will come almost exclusively from those workbooks. In Old Testament, at the end of every unit, like every week is a unit, at the end of every unit, you will have a list of review questions. So on those review questions, that's where I take the exam questions from. So that's how I know if you did your workbooks or not. There's a final exam at the end of each course that covers information in that workbook. Those exams are open book and open note. However, if you don't have the workbook filled in, you will have a very hard time taking the exam. So that's how I know that the workbook was completed. The books you read, like Basic Guide Interpreting the Bible, there's discussion questions. When you advance on to other classes, you'll find that you read books and you journal about each chapter. And in a journal, you pull out one quote from the book, from each chapter, and you comment on it. And so that's the assignments. Like I said, pretty straightforward. You only have to log in live once a month, around this time for a webinar. So let me ask some questions that are coming in. Susie Mead wants to know the typical turnaround time for graded assignments. That should be done fairly quickly. We really try to get those done within 48 hours if you turn it in before the deadline. Because inevitably what happens is that almost everyone waits and turns in all their assignments on Sunday night, which means it takes us a long time into the next week to get the grading done. So if you want feedback from your assignments, if you want enough time to review them, and then like on the audio and video quizzes, not on the exams, but on the audio video quizzes, you can take those quizzes twice. And the reason why is because we're not trying to just quiz you on everything. We want you to actually learn the material, so it's a chance to go back and show us that you've learned. So if you do your work well before the deadlines, you're going to get grades pretty quickly. If you wait until Sunday night, it may be 3, 4, or 5 days, just because everyone waits till Sunday night and it piles up. Good question, though. Good question. Also, just so you know, we do make a commitment as well that any email that you send will be answered within 24 hours. So if you're working on an assignment and you have a question, you email us. You shouldn't have to wait longer than 24 hours. Because there are so many of you and so little of us, we can't make the same guarantee for phone calls being returned. From office hours, Alex is here at the office 9 to 4, Tuesday through Friday, so he can answer. He's taking calls and all that. But as far as if you need to call our cell phones, you're more than welcome to call my cell phone. My number's published everywhere. But I can't guarantee how quickly I'm able to get back with you because there are so many students. There is that. Tim Job, you do show to be logged on, so I can see your question.
The internship portion.
Okay, yeah. Internship portion, that's a good question. Thank you so much, Heather, for bringing that up. Here's our philosophy about the internship. We believe that it does you no good to learn Bible, to learn ministry, to learn theology, and to not have an avenue to practice it, to actually do something good. So we require all of our students to be involved in a local church at some level. So we suggest between 5 and 6 hours a week. We have no way of verifying that. You don't keep a time log. We don't call your pastor. We don't know. We have no way of knowing. But that's what we suggest. And then throughout the semester, we want you to be involved in church. That might be usher, it might be greeter, it might be Sunday school, it might be outreach, it might be healing ministry, it might be VBS, it could be Sunday school, it could be teaching, it could be pastoring, it could be really anything. It's just being involved in a local church. And then you'll have 2 assignments per semester. And in those 2 assignments, you'll be given an opportunity to integrate what you're doing in ministry with what you're learning in DLI. So you'll be given that chance to integrate with what you're doing in ministry to what you're learning in DLI. And that's really helpful for you to be able to put this to practical use. Listen, I went to seminary at Oral Roberts University. Just if you want to know my credentials, I have a Master's of Divinity, I have a Master's of Arts in Biblical Literature, I have a Bachelor's in History. I've been to school for a long time, and I have enough student loan debts to make a grown man cry. And actually, I normally do cry. Like on Tuesday mornings about 10 a.m. I just set aside a little time for mourning and weeping and gnashing of teeth because I went to school for a long time. But so in the seminary environment, in that sort of setting, it's so easy to be so focused on academics that there's no practical aspect. So what this does is it reminds you that everything we're teaching you, everything you're learning is meant to be applied and used in a local church. We believe that the local church is the hope of the world. We believe that the Bible is not to be learned for the sake of the Bible. The Bible is to be learned to be shared, to make a difference in our churches and in our communities. So we want you to be involved in a local church, and these assignments simply, in a very defined way, give you an avenue to incorporate what you're learning with what you're doing in a local church. So your internship is not an official high-profile internship. You don't have to move into the church basement or anything like that. All you have to do is be serving in church and working in church, being involved in your church. And if you're not at a place where you can be involved in your church, then DLI isn't right for you at this time because this is a practical program for practical people. Thank you for the question. I'm very glad you asked that because I love to give that little spiel and I almost didn't get my opportunity. Yeah, forum posts. Good question here, Brandon. Post in the discussion forum. Standard length of posting. I believe we say that by the end of the first week on a Sunday, you need to have a first post listed, and that post is about 250 words. Is the guess. And why I say a guess is because you can have 250 words of nothing, and that doesn't count. Or you can have 100 words of solid insight. So it's not so much about word count, it's more about substance. We're assuming that you're all adults and seeking to learn and wanting to learn, and we're not going to cut and paste your answer into a Word document and do a word count on every post. What we're looking for are responses of substance. So your first response should be to the original question, about 250 words or just a thorough response. And then you should, by the end of the next Sunday, respond to at least 2 other people in about 100 words. But once again, just a substantive response or answer. That is the bare minimum, and I hope that we don't get to a habit of doing the bare minimum. The discussion forum is really a great place for you to learn from each other. You know, we have students in the online program from Trinidad, from all over the U.S., so internationally, nationally, people from all over in our discussion forum, so you can learn so much from each other. There are senior pastors that take DLI, and there are 18-year-olds who just got out of high school, not really sure what they want to do with their life yet. There are Sunday schools. There's the 50-year-old lady, the 25-year-old single mom. There's the associate pastor. I mean, there's such a broad range of people on DLI. The discussion forum really gives you a chance to engage in practical theology, to see how everyone has a different perspective on a topic. So that's what we're looking for, is really just good interaction. This gets neglected, honestly. For some reason, this is always one thing that students slack off on the fastest. But every class has a 20% participation grade figured in. So if you don't participate in the discussion forums, the most you can get in that class is an 80%. If you participate half-heartedly, you could lose probably 10 or 15 points of your final average. So really take that seriously and dive into that. Any other questions?
Let's go. Dustin wants asked how will the internship work for full-time pastors?
Good question, Dustin. It works kind of the same way with everyone else, that all you do is you do those 2 assignments that are in the internship class that synthesize what you're doing in church with what you're learning in DLI. So this works for a full-time pastor as well as it works for the parking lot volunteer or nursery volunteer or associate pastor or whatever title. It works the same for everyone. Just 2 assignments per semester that bring your learning and your ministry experience together. Okay. Any other questions at all? All right. Listen, guys, I want to thank you for logging in. Hope you enjoyed this evening as much as I did. Hope you enjoyed this format. If you have had technical problems, we had some echoing issues earlier, but I think that's really been the only issue from our end. So if you've lost video or lost audio, that might be something on your end. We still would like to help you work through that. That way, next time we can do this and do it more effectively. Our next webinar will be October 7th, I believe, and so we'll be looking forward to that. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name's Landon. After all this, and I just want to welcome you again. If you need anything at all, you can always email us, call us, get to work on your assignments, and Alex and I are on standby waiting to help you in any way that we can. Any feedback that you might have, ways that we can improve, or things that are unclear, just help us. Just let us help you in any way we can. See, one more question came in that I'll address real quickly. If I could talk a little bit about ministry credentials. That's a good question that Gino brought up. We do Destiny Ministries, the organization that's kind of over Destiny Leadership Institute. We offer ministry licensure and credentialing. We're a 501c3 and can offer those things. After you finish Core 1, you're eligible to apply for ministry licensure through Destiny. After you finish Core 2, you're eligible to apply for ordination through Destiny. So that's an option for you. A couple of caveats. If your church that you're involved in, if they use a different organization for licensure or they license themselves, then we will step out of the process and defer to your local church. If any pastors are watching or if anyone wants to spread the word, we always defer to the local church in a situation like that. So, but if your church is okay with it and they don't have a means of licensing and ordaining and they don't typically, or for whatever reason, we are happy to do it and happy to apply. The other thing I would mention is that just because you finish year 1 and year 2 in DLI, it doesn't guarantee credentialing. There's still an application process that includes a pastoral recommendation and a couple of other requirements. So if you're looking for ministry licensure, that's a definite option for you. But I want to be straight up front with you that depends on the system that your local church already has in place, and it depends on the application process that we have. But it's something we can definitely look into and help you with.
You just had one more about confirming PDF format.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up from Justin. Whenever you upload assignments to the Dropbox, putting those in PDF is ideal. So if you can save it as a PDF and upload it, as you know, or as you may or may not know, anyone on any computer can always open a PDF file. So no matter who's grading your work, it makes it a lot easier on us. Usually we can get by if you have Microsoft Word or Pages or PDF. We can open those, but any other format we can't open. Then we have to email you back, and it's just a pain. So just try to do it in PDF. All right. Any other questions? I have a vast repository of knowledge I'd like to share. You just have to ask the right questions to get it out. I'm just saying crazy stuff. I don't think anybody's watching anymore. All right, guys. Glad you're with us. Glad you joined us. If you have any questions at all, just let us know. This video will be recorded, and you'll be able to watch it later if you missed any part of it. Appreciate you guys. Good night.